Mazzella again for Small Business Digest. And franchising is big. It's been bigger and it's growing. But we have Ray Titus with us. He's going to talk about what his group has found and hopefully a lot more as we help people decide whether they want to franchise or not. So, Ray Titus, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Don. I appreciate you having me on, and it's my pleasure.
Well, Ray, tell us first a little bit about your personal background, then about your organization, and above all, a website.
No problem. I was born and raised in New York, in Long Island, and I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family of an entrepreneur. That my dad started Minuteman Press, the printing franchise, in the 70s. And he taught me franchising. My 8th grade school paper was how to start a franchise company. And when I got out of university, I went to work with my dad and we started Sanorama together. And I ran that store, that first location in New York on Long Island in Farmingdale. And we started franchising that next year and never looked back. That was 1986. Here we are. 36 years later, we have 10 brands, 1,600 franchisees in 80 countries worldwide. And we're still a family-run business. I'm still the same guy that started it 36 years ago. I'm 59 years old today, and I've got 3 kids. All 3 work here in the business. AJ, my oldest, is the president of Sanorama. Austin is the president of our networking franchise called Network Lead Exchange. And Andrew is the director of sales for our retail division. I also have 3 nephews in the business as well. And they've been with me for many, many years as well. So we are a family-run business. And we're a big company on one side where we have, all these franchise companies and franchisees worldwide. But on the other side, we're still a privately held company and a family-run business. So we kind of are big and small at the same time, and we balance between both of those. And, as an organization, we had to create our umbrella name, which is called United Franchise Group. And United Franchise Group .com is where you can find all of our brands. So that's United Franchise Group, UNITED franchise, FRANCHISE group, GROUP.com. And so for our organization, we have 10 brands, 1,600 franchisees in 80 countries worldwide, Don.
Just out of curiosity, what are the 10 brands?
Okay, so our oldest and most established brand is Sanorama. And Sanorama is in the sign business, obviously, and has built as the #1 franchise in the sign industry, fully promoted, which used to be called Embroid Me. And we changed the name because we do more than just embroidery. We do screen printing and promotional products and ad specialties. So we have fully promoted. We have Transworld Business Advisors, which is our business brokerage franchise, the largest business brokerage in the world that we built up over the last 12 years. We have a co-working division where we have 2 brands, Venture X, which is our 25,000 square foot facilities. We have about 54 of those opened and another 100 on the way. Then we have Office Evolution, which is only about 10,000 square foot facilities. And we have about 75 of those as well. We also have a food division where we have the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill and Gray's Craze, which is charcuterie boards and boxes. We've got 25 Great Greeks and another 150 in contracted and on the way. And then with Gray's Craze, we have about 20 of those that are either opened and another 100 on the way. So that's an exciting brand that's come along. We also have a couple brands that are in more consulting. We have Network Lead Exchange, which is our networking franchise. We have Accurate Franchising, which turns businesses and people's ideas into a franchise. So if you have a company, Don, let's just say Small Business Digest, and you came to us and we could turn that into a franchise and do everything from the manuals and everything else to turn it into an actual franchise that could be scalable and sold all over the world. So those are our brands, and it's an exciting time for our organization.
Well, I know you're here to talk about a survey you've done, but I'm going to kind of put you sideways because over the last 2 weeks, I've had any numerous requests. How does one say run a business? For instance, there is a bagel place nearby that makes the absolutely the best bagels I have tasted around the world. It's run by
Yep.
two Lebanese, of all people. And I keep saying to them they should go and franchise. But how does one come to you and say, "I have an idea. I'm going to stop there and let you talk"?
Well, Don, it's a great question. It happens 8 to 10 times a month here at United Franchise Group, where we turn people into a franchise. So here's what happens. They have enough customers at that bagel store that tell them it should be a franchise. And all of a sudden, one of my people walk in, or somebody walks in that actually does that for a living and says, you know what, I can do this for you. And they then contract with us. And we then go through a series of meetings. We do a site visit. We first determine, is it franchisable? What's going to make it different from everything else out there, Don? Like you said, the best tasting bagels. I'm from Long Island. Okay. So I live in South Florida and I know what a good bagel is. And in South Florida, they're hard to find. And so, same with pizza. Okay. So, I mean, there's different things that, go with different areas, right? So, in this case, we would say, okay, it's the best bagel, and here's what we want to do. Maybe it's a certain size space, maybe it's a certain number of employees or lack of employees today, because everybody's looking for a business where you don't have to hire a lot of people, because that can be a challenge out there with the businesses that are out there. So then we go through a strategic planning session where we go with the business they come in and we go through 1 year and 3 year plans and what they can do with this business. We also have a whole department that helps them market and sell franchises. If they want to contract with us to sell the franchises, or if they just want to do it on their own, they can just take it and go. And they don't contract with us to do anything else but organize the franchise operation, set up the manuals. We do we work with outside counsel for the FDDs and all the legal documentation, the manuals, everything's done. And then we're able to hand them their scalable franchise organization. And obviously then the work begins. But, that kind of takes you through soup to nuts.
What do you think something like that costs in terms of investment by the owners?
You mean to do everything we just did?
Yeah.
I mean, we contract with people to do that for it's about $70,000, Don,
Wow.
all in amount. So that's they pay us that, and we do everything for them. They do have to fill out, give us a lot of information, the survey, the kind of give us, because we're not an expert in their industry. They're the expert in making bagels. And this example that you're giving. And we've done bagel stores. Okay. That's kind of interesting. So, but we then dig in and kind of go through everything. The legal, as you could probably well imagine, takes, a big chunk of that, because you have to go through, you have to have a franchise agreement, that you have to have a disclosure document. So similar to what they pass out when you buy a stock, but this is governed by the Federal Trade Commission or a local state, depending on what state they're from. And, we follow all of the laws and all of the rules, kind of walk them through that whole thing.
They still call it the blue sky law?
The blue sky what?
Do they still call that the blue sky laws? Or
I know of the blue sky laws, but they're really, it's all under the Securities and Exchange Commission. So there are some blue sky laws, but we have franchise laws now, and so we kind of go. There's a biz op laws too that cover the business opportunities that aren't full-fledged franchise companies as well.
I'm sorry for doing that and pulling you off, but you seem like the expert on this because people have been asking constantly over the years. I used to be the publisher of Income Opportunities magazine going back many years.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
okay. So,
Well, I
so
know that magazine. I know that magazine very well, and we've advertised in that magazine over the years, for many years. Our company, Don, that does that is called Accurate Franchising Incorporated.
hmm,
So we call it AFI, but it's Accurate
uh,
Franchising Incorporated, and they take people from their business. They could have one restaurant, two restaurants, and they want to offer franchises, and we can help them do that. In really short order. Usually, it takes us about 60 to 90 days to do the whole process. And like I said, we're doing about 8 to 10 of those a month here at United Franchise Group.
suppose someone comes to you and they come up with a great idea now, and then they reach the point of franchising. Now, do you then say, "Well, we want to take it on," or are you willing to? Do you help them sell these franchises, or
Yeah, well, several things there, Don. First of all, if somebody has a great idea, but they haven't executed on the idea yet, so they haven't proven the model, that shouldn't really be franchised, right? So that's something that you've got to open up one, prove the model, because people buy franchises because they're proven concepts that have already had a lot of the kinks worked out of them. Now, we are very interested in those new ideas because we would also execute on opening up one and prove the model and start franchising, because we not only do accurate franchising where we turn the businesses into franchises, we own, like I said, 10 franchise brands, and we're a franchisor. So we're a big believer in franchising. So that's something that we do as an organization. In fact, Gray's Craze, I'll give you an example. Gray's Craze, the charcuterie boards and box business that we're franchising, they came to Accurate Franchising. We turned them into a franchise. I looked at this and was so interested. I flew to Oklahoma City to see it, tasted the food, visited the locations, really, really liked what I saw. Ended up working out a deal where they have Oklahoma and we're franchising all over the country now. And we're building and growing the business. So it actually came from Accurate Franchising,
hmm,
and now it's a part of United Franchise Group.
what kind of food do they offer when you say,
Yeah, charcuterie boards, like cheeses and cured meats and fruit and hummus and
"Oh,
dipping sauces and things like that. My wife is Italian, and she's been doing a charcuterie board for about 25 years for every family gathering that we have, crackers and
mm,
dips and all the, she would normally have pepperoni and other cheeses cut up on a board, big platter. And that's what this business does.
hmm." I imagine it would be very successful,
It's
especially
getting
in
there. It's really building, Don. What's interesting? We have an opportunity to own a food segment. There is no brand that's known for charcuterie. And
no.
and so when you start to see restaurants over and over, some of the best restaurants in the world, and I'll, go to some of these restaurants and they'll have in the appetizers charcuterie board, and which is really cool to see this really taking off.
But when you look at a franchise, do you look at it in terms of surrounding population? What are some of the factors that go into choosing a location? Remember the line, location, location, location.
Yeah, I also remember who said it, right? Howard Johnson's, right? So,
Yes.
so, so look, take a step back. Depending on the brand, We're going to do a complete, we're going to look at every study. We're going to demographics, traffic counts, business counts, traffic flows, growth areas. We're looking at everything, competitive analysis. So you really, depending on the brand I just named, Gray's Craze, doesn't need an A+ location because it's a delivery business. So it's more interested in the delivery areas. It's kind of more like edible arrangements, if you're familiar with that chocolate covered fruit and
Yeah.
that business. It's more of a delivery business. So you can go in a B- or a C location. A Sinorama likes to be out on the main road where we get sign exposure because we're in the sign business. Or a Great Greek, our full-fledged restaurant, they want A+ locations. We're here on Okeechobee in West Palm Beach next to Chipotle and Starbucks. So each one of the brands are a little different in what they're looking for in a location. And then beyond that, what's their marketing area? And we're going to look at everything from competitive analysis, like I said, but the full demographic studies of the traffic counts and business counts, and looking at the growth areas and where we could, expand to in the future as well.
Before we go further, your website again for people?
Each one of the brands, it's their name.com, but it's unitedfranchisegroup.com. And that can and get you to all of our brands.
Okay. I'm gonna go look myself, after this. It's fascinating. Um, I guess my next question is, um, there's always the initial cost, but do you say, they should be able to last a year, 2 years, and, have enough reserves? Uh, that's a question that always comes up.
Yeah, I think that again is dependent upon which brand you're in business you're looking at. Some need much more working capital than others. I mean, if you're looking at rent and an equipment payment and inventory and manufacturing equipment and a lot of things, depending on what the business is. So, for instance, like Sinorama, the rent is a little lighter because it's only a 1,400 square foot space. It's not a 5,000 square foot space, and you don't need as many employees, a couple of employees, and you build and grow a business. So you don't have a large inventory with Sinorama as well. So each one of the businesses is going to be a little different. I think most of the businesses today, we look to see them having that 6 months of working capital to get them through that first 6 months. Now they're going to need access to other funds in case that doesn't see them through. For the most part, most of our businesses, I think we look for that 6 month area. And then, there's a lot of businesses out there, and we don't have this, but there's a lot of that are really, really expensive, over $1.5 million, 3 million. Our Venture X brand is over $1 million. But but doesn't have any manufacturing equipment, and you don't need to hire a lot of employees. It's a different thing. But when you get into, a large fast food operation, you could be hiring 80 to 100 people, and you could go through your working capital pretty quick if you don't watch it. And so they're going to need a lot more working capital than a Venture X would hiring 2 people.
But let
And
me a
so, yeah.
let me ask you this question, because unfortunately, we're running out of time. Um, labor is right now seems to be the number one issue facing. How do you help franchisees, or can you help franchisees with the labor?
Yeah, we do help them with it. I mean, first of all, there are challenges to labor, and it's different in different markets. So some I'm seeing that don't have as much a problem as others. Okay. But overall, Don, I would have to agree with you. There's a major issue with this, and we need to work through it. And there's a lot of different ways we go about that. We started a school, the Titus Franchise School in here in Palm Beach at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And that's to train the next generation in franchising. And some of them get jobs in franchises, some of them own their own franchises. So we are committed to the future through education and setting up that center, but helping specific franchise owners through this. you've got to be creative. We've got to get out, and ways to get employees and find employees, whether it's in the schools or whether it's out there. Now, other things we do, we have kiosks that will help where they don't need as many employees in certain locations because they can use a kiosk. I know I was recently in Paris, and what normally would have been a McDonald's in the airport that would have had 20 employees, they had 10 kiosks that were taking everybody's orders in the lobby. And I think they had like 4 employees in this McDonald's that I could count when I was there. And it was remarkable. So you're going to see a transformation of technology, creativity, and changing, as we go forward into the coming years. So yes, we can help. And we train our franchisees on how to hire them, where to find them, and really moving it forward. But it is a challenge, and certainly they need the help because there are a lot of there's a lot of competition for a shrinking market, and so we need to do our best. I always recommend certain books for different subjects, and there was a book by Gallup called The Coming Jobs War, where they were forecasting exactly what we're going through right now. And it's really interesting in how to compete with some of these things. So I'm a big believer in higher education and finding the right book that'll get you the answer that you need.
Well, unfortunately, Ray, we're reaching the end of our time together. So one last thought.
Well, what I would share with you, and one of the things we talked about maybe discussing was the survey that we did. And I wanted to just share with you some interesting things because we did a survey of all of our franchisees in America. And just to get, and again, this is across 10 different industries, and really dug in a little bit. And some of the statistics were really eye-opening. 54% shows that being able to control their own destiny was the big thing that drove them to buy a business. But more than 82% wanted financial independence, and that was a big player. 51% in finding happiness in their job. As you look through it, it was pretty eye-opening, some of these statistics. So, when you start to see, 83% being independent and being their own boss was the driving factor. But one of the statistics that kind of got us interested was when we looked at that almost half owned a business before they bought a franchise. 44% had owned a business and still bought a franchise because of the branding or the training or mass purchasing power and all the other things. Now, keep in mind, that means that 56% had no experience in owning their own business. And they made an excellent first choice because they chose a franchise company that would give them the training and the setup and the support to give them that head start, right? So we kind of saw it from both angles there. But I think it's important that we get across to everyone that as a franchise company, we don't have all the answers. We get our best answers and our best direction from our franchisees. They're the ones that tell us what works best in their local markets. And what we do is just facilitate these things, Don, and we get them out to the masses. And that's how we got through the pandemic so quickly and easily with our brands. And that's how we move forward today, because the world around us is changing and changing and changing every day. And we can't keep up with it. But as an organization, we can. And we can help our franchise owners not only keep up with it, but really, really excel during these crazy times. So we're seeing last month was the best month we ever had at our organization. And we're seeing us setting records in all the brands, from Transworld to Fully Promoted to our co-working brands over at Office Evolution and VentureX. So we're seeing records being set right now. So we're refusing to be involved in any type of recession that they want to promote out there. We're not going to participate in it, Don.
I wish we could keep on further, Ray, but we got to say goodbye before we get cut off. Thank you so much for a great interview.